The director of The Crow said that this is not a remake. It's wildly different. Well, yes, it is. And in that case, why the hell did you even make a movie called The Crow with the character of Eric Draven? So I'm going to preface this by saying I enjoy the Crow movie, the original, the one from 1994. I'm not super into it, but I do appreciate the cinematography of it, the aesthetics of it, the character design, all of that. And I feel like Brandon Lee did a pretty solid job in the role. I know they've made other Crow movies, and these Crow movies have not been remakes of the original story. They've just been stories about different characters who a similar sort of thing happened to them, where they were brought back to life after a tragic event involving, I guess, a loved one or whatever, because that's kind of like the lore. The thing about this movie is, well, I went into this with zero expectation, like none. And even so, I still left pretty disappointed at how meh it was and what was the freaking point of this thing. Bill Skarsgård, he's a fine actor. He was fine in here. This is nothing really against him. I could say otherwise about the chick who played his opposite, which of course they did some character changes with her, as you know, as is typical with a lot of films these days. But the story that they created was definitely different from the original baseline story of Eric Draven. And I was thinking to myself the whole time, why did you even make it about the original Crow? Why didn't you just create a whole separate set of characters with different names and all of that? The only thing really that connected this with the Crow was the names. That's it. The stories were completely different. That's, if you're going to do something like that, then why even draw connections to the source material? They've changed the source material drastically, and it didn't play well for me. The action and the character design also was not very impactful or impressive like the original was. There were shots in the original that were very well done. That's not necessarily the case here. It felt very generic, and there wasn't any fight scene that stuck out as being well crafted or well shot. It just didn't work for me. Also, the romance factor, I couldn't buy into it because, in the original Crow, and I watched it not long ago on the big screen for the first time on the big screen. The original Crow, you don't get a ton of backstory to the characters of Eric and Shelley. You don't get a ton of backstory. You're kind of thrust very quickly into the tragedy that has happened, and you are fed their love story along the way, and somehow that worked pretty well. In this one, you get this whole backstory about what was going on in their lives, how they met, fell in love, and all that sort of stuff. And yet, even though we had more of them together before these events happened that caused, the whole thing with the Crow to bring him back and all of that stuff, it was like it just didn't feel as real or as realistic to me as the story in the original. I didn't buy into his sudden and complete infatuation with her. It seemed like it was something that was based 100% on just chemistry and sex, and they're doing drugs and hanging out with other people doing drugs and having sex and talking about music, and it just didn't feel like there was anything really grounded there. And also, given the situation of their characters, I was thinking to myself, there's not even, how are they even surviving? How do they even have the money to survive this life that they're living, given where they came from? They weren't productive people, and they had stupid dialogue with each other about how much they loved each other, or they would show these scenes of them together montages of how much, they had fun messing with each other and kissing on each other and all this. And in between all of that, there would be these lines of dialogue. I'll give you an example. She said something like, if I'm ever hard to love, try to love me harder. What the hell kind of nonsense is that? If someone's hard to love, maybe that's a warning sign that you need to leave. And it's just like, what? And then at one point they're talking with each other about, like, if they died, if something tragic happened to them and they died. He said, I think it was his character said, would angsty teens build little shrines for us? How is this romantic talk? This is stupid. I mean, it just was not landing with me. And then at one point they were on a bridge or whatever, and she says, if I jumped, would you jump with me? And he said, yes. How is this romantic? This seems very dysfunctional and stupid. And I'm just like, well, I can't with this. I don't buy into this. And she was also not a good actor. I thought she was terrible. I was not impressed at all with her performance in here. And just as a whole, the story, a part of me does appreciate that they tried to do something different. I just don't like that they attached the original characters to it. I think I would have enjoyed this a little bit more, maybe, if they had made it about a whole different group of people, like I said before, but them latching on to the original, not necessarily the movie, but let's say the original story, and going in this complete 180, it felt really cheap and gimmicky. There was one thing that I did like about it, and I felt like it was portrayed a little bit better than maybe we were shown in the 1994 version. When he gets hurt, and it's very painful for him, he's not really as invincible-ish looking as he was in the movie. When something happens to him, he does react, and his bones will break and he will bleed, and I think Brandon Lee's character bled also, but he would instantly heal. He didn't necessarily instantly heal, and when it showed the healing happen, I was impressed with how they showed that, but that's about the extent of my appreciation for this movie. Yeah, it's not it's just not as impressive as the original. I don't get the point. I know why studios do this stuff. They latch on to previously made things that were pretty decent, have a decent fan base, and they think that somehow is going to propel their material to something better, when by the time it's all done, it's like, why just do something completely not even connected with this. I do think this film would have come across quite a bit better if it had just been its own complete story. But whatever, they've gone and done this, and I don't think it's gonna go over all that well, to be honest. I don't think it's just me that is not super impressed with it. We'll see. I'm sure there will be some people who do enjoy it. This is all very subjective, but I just feel like fans of the comic and fans of the first movie, I don't think they're going to be super impressed. But we'll see. I could be wrong. Okay, I don't think I have anything else. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up so I can get it edited and put up maybe for tomorrow. So, see you guys later.